Hello and welcome to the Adult Empire podcast. I'm Dallas, your host. Our guest today is the 2023 Adult Empire Porn Star of the Year. She's winning this prize for the second straight year. She is Leana Lovings, and she joins us now. So, Leana Lovings, you are Adult Empire's 2023 Porn Star of the Year, your second straight win in this category. What is your reaction to this hopefully exciting news?
Oh, it is extremely exciting for me. I still am beside myself. I thought, you know what, I made Adult Empire's 2022 Performer of the Year. That was already amazing. But a second year in a row, I did not think that this was achievable for me, and I'm very grateful, but I'm very honored to have made it this far. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, you remain super popular with the Adult Empire fan base, and they are the porn super fans, so that says a lot
Mm.
for sure. So, and I think we talked about this in passing, I think the last year. Oftentimes awards, like you think of Oscars, things like that, they involve an acceptance speech. Now, I'm not going to make you do an actual acceptance speech, but just thinking more generally about that kind of theme, who would be the people, or what would be the things that you would be thanking for helping you to get to where you are in your career today in 2023?
Doubtlessly, I would immediately thank my fans. I mean, every single one of them has contributed to where I am today, and I'm so happy that they've been able to follow. I'm so happy that they've been able to follow me through this journey, and it is so humbling and so amazing. And I cannot wait to keep showing everyone amazing things in the year to come. There's so much that hasn't even been released yet that I've worked on that I cannot wait to show them. And all of it is a dedication to them and how much they've supported me over the years.
Ooh la la! So these things that you shot that you that haven't gone out yet, are there any of those things that you can talk about or tease or preview a little bit here?
Let's see, when's the release date for this?
Mid-December probably.
Okay. So, potentially mid to late December, I'm going to be releasing my very first showcase.
Exciting, exciting. I have heard tell about that. Um, so let's talk a little bit about showcases. Is that something? Had you watched other people's showcases? Had you seen what they done? Was there any sense of competition on your part? Like, okay, I want to, one up so and so or something like that.
No, for me, it's never been about competition, but it has always been a message about art. If anything, a showcase for me is, especially just because porn for me is integral to my personal discovery and my journey. A showcase for me is something like a culmination of what I've learned so far, that I can look back on it and be like, yes, this is the full artistic expression of what I feel like I'm reaching, what I feel like I'm coming close to. And I'm so excited to have been doing my first showcase. Now, my showcase does not have any of my very first scenes, uh, type type deal. Like I'm not going to be doing my very first anal. But if this showcase does well, I think that I would be very much keeping that in mind.
Exciting, tantalizing as
Mm.
well. So,
Yes.
if you're able to delve into it, what are some of the themes or fetishes that might be represented in the showcase?
Mm. I'd say the theme is very much eyes wide shut.
Ooh.
Um, so my character has four doors that sit before her that she can choose from, and behind each door is a different sensual fantasy, different tantalizing experience that she gets to explore. And I feel like that in itself is um, it's a token to how I've been exploring my life in terms of what my fetishes are. So I feel like it's very true to me, and to that I'm so grateful, and I absolutely love it.
So, Eyes Wide Shut, I assume that's a movie you've seen and liked. Are you a Kubrick
Mm.
fan in general? Stanley Kubrick, that is to say, of course.
Oh, yes, of course.
So that movie is quite interesting, not to go down too much of a rabbit hole with Eyes Wide Shut, but it has a lot of interesting comments, I think, about just the nature of sexuality, human sexuality, and jealousy, and all sorts of themes like that. I mean, there's that somewhat famous scene where Nicole Kidman talks to Tom Cruise, and she confesses that she fantasized about this guy she just met only glancingly. So is that something that you think about a lot? Do you think about, the nature of human sexuality and analyze it a lot, or you do not overthink it?
Oh, if anything, I think I have the tendency to overthink everything. So, um, I absolutely consider human sexuality to be something that should be analyzed consistently. And I analyze my own sexuality as much as I look at other people and I think, you know, um, I believe that every single person should have some sort of um, forthcoming nature about their innate sexual desires. And there's so much about the vanilla world, so to speak, so much about the world outside the doors of porn, where sexuality is something that's so taboo, so forbidden that everyone shudders and pauses their breath at the thought of mentioning it in public conversation. And in porn, it's so easy to talk about. In fact, it's second nature to just mention these outrageous, ridiculous things that conventionally we would not be used to saying. I think about that a lot and how natural it is for me to discuss my body and the likes of thereof. It is so strange to me discovering my own sexuality and then realizing how closed up I used to be and how closed up so many other people are that aren't in the industry.
So you were talking there about how easy it is to, in this context, to be able to talk frankly about sexuality and things like that. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you were shifting out of a mode where you were talking to people in the industry, you're just talking to, I mean, I hate to use this expression, but regular people, and you were like, oh, wait a minute, I can't be as candid as I usually am. Did you ever accidentally not shift your tone and say something outrageous or sexual?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Um, this actually happened fairly recently before I flew into Japan. I had just finished up a shoot and I was so excited about the details of it. And we were just about to walk into a grocery store. So we had stepped out of the car mid-conversation. And as we're in the parking lot, I'm saying, oh, yes. And there were sex droids. And then I'm like, wait, oh, I am in a parking lot and there are other people that are definitely not in the industry that just heard me very loudly say, and then there were sex droids. And I realized that, that I was in an entirely different world where that kind of conversation would not be kept at the voice that I was holding that at.
So, sex droids. I'm very curious what the context was for that.
Um, so there is a feature that is releasing on Adult Time titled Dolls, and I am one of six characters in that feature. It is very cool. I am a scientist that is working on sex droids, the ideal sex droid. Um, and it turns into it starts out that we're just developing like the ideal platonic companion, but uh, it ends up being that they're sex droids. And I was so fascinated by this, I had to tell my friends after the process of filming just how exciting that was. And that's where the conversation arose.
Interesting. So here's a hypothetical question. If someone designed a sex droid that was completely to your total wishes in terms of its features and implementation, what features would that sex droid have, do you think?
Mm, well, if I'm completely honest, for me, it would have to be something that could change its form physically. Because
Ooh.
I'm not the type of person that finds physical appearance something that strikes me at the heart. I'm not immediately turned on by someone's physical appearance. It really has to be something stimulating emotionally. So if they were just able to change their physical parts at will, I think that would be very cool because it's something that I could play with sexually. Like one day they have breasts and then the next day they have a penis. Like that's just it would be just so fascinating. And I think that the concept of the scene dolls really plays on that. So it's very cool.
No, I was just going to say it sounds like basically almost a shapeshifter in a sense was what we're describing,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. I would say that my ideal sexual fantasy would be a shapeshifter because then I could explore everything with everyone.
Now there is a sentence you don't hear every day. My ideal sex fantasy would be a shapeshifter. But I guess if you think about it, that makes sense because, role play is such a popular thing. People are doing all sorts of, costumes and characters and things like that. And I mean, the logical extension of that would be somebody who could change every aspect of themselves, not just clothes and personality, but, from head to toe. So it makes sense. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
So when you think about the year 2023, and again, I think this is a variation on a question we talked about last year when you won the same prize. When you came into this year, January 1st, did you have specific career goals that you wanted to achieve in 2023, or were you just going to kind of see what happened?
This year, I decided that I was just going to claim the world in everything that I could in terms of discovering even more of my artistic sense, and I've been pursuing like directorial roles more. I've been expanding my artistic profile, and I feel like I really claimed exactly what I wanted out of this year because I feel more expanded in my awareness of my personality as an artist, as a performer, and I'm learning so many new things. I love that porn has so many avenues that you can't stop learning. People like to assume that porn is just so simple, it's so easy. But the dynamic of humanity, the dynamic of human sensuality is constantly changing. Every single person that you work with is different and special and beautiful. And I love being able to expand on that with every single scene. And I feel like I get better and better every single day that I work with a different performer, just at immediately connecting with them. And I think part of that is also because I've had a little bit more of an opportunity to work with even more performers this year than I did last year.
So I'm sure it's hard to narrow it down to just a few, but are there any performers in particular that you think, oh wow, okay, we had really great chemistry. That collaboration in 2023 was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, um, my Elegant Angel scene with Prince Yashua was amazing. I feel like we had just an immediate connection. It was fantastic. We just flowed into what we wanted to do. It was almost just completely wordless, which I thought was fantastic. You rarely get an opportunity like that where it's just so immediate. And I really am proud of how that scene turned out.
Now, had you met him at all before you shot that scene, or was the first time you met him the day you came in to shoot that?
I had actually met him once before we shot that scene. It was as I was just starting in my career a year ago. So um, I'd seen him on a set, and he waved me over, and we talked, and I said, "Hey, I would really love to work with you." And we kind of agreed that, hey, one day we are going to work with one another, and it's going to be amazing. And when we finally got together to do a scene, it was absolutely amazing. And I find that very satisfying. We fulfilled what we had intended to do a little bit of a year apart, but it was so perfectly timed. I think it couldn't have been better.
So do you find that happening frequently where something happens and you think to yourself, wow, it's almost as if it were fate. This happened at exactly the right time.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I've asked myself a lot, like, why did I choose to go into porn now? Um, and I feel like being here, I feel like I'm in exactly the right time and the right place that I need to be. Being here with you again, a year apart, it's just such a huge reflection on thinking of where I was last year and where I am right now. It's so grounding to think, like, yes, this many scenes later, I'm still deeply enjoying what I'm doing. And I think that doing it at the age that I am, because I'm 26, was the perfect choice.
So do you? So you were talking there. I mean, it is surprising sometimes to think that you haven't been in the industry that long in the big picture, but you've accomplished so much. You've shot so many scenes. You've grown so much. Do you? I mean, it's hard to think of oneself in this way, but do you ever think of yourself as like a porn prodigy, like an Orson Welles of porn, like accomplishing so much? In fact, I think he was 26 when he directed Citizen Kane. There's a comparison for you, but anyway. I mean, is that do you if that label were applied to you, do you think that it would fit? The porn prodigy.
I would never attribute any labels to myself, mainly because um, the way that I can best describe it is people joke that when you're very high up on the top of anything, you don't look down. If you're on a high wire, you look immediately at what's in front of you. You don't look at your feet, at where you are in the moment, because that's when you'll lose your balance. And I'm facing the present moment and I'm experiencing everything as it happens. And I don't want to immediately look down and ponder where I am in the moment, other than what my next step is going to be. I Yeah, I think that fits it very well. I don't consider myself a porn prodigy. I just consider myself someone who pursues my sexuality as my art and will continue to do so.
You mentioned earlier your forays into directing. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So, um, being in front of the camera has been a wonderful avenue. And even before porn, I've been an artist. I've worked as a digital illustrator. I've worked as a photographer. I have a lot of experience practicing with different mediums. So for me, it's always been this desire to explore different challenges and find different ways of expressing what's in my heart and what's in my mind. And experiencing directing has been another foray for me into a different medium of expression, because I feel like there's so many stories that I want to tell that aren't just me. I want to be able to see other people play out something that I've imagined, and it's really cool being able to also to look at that and to learn behind the camera what else I can do to better myself as a performer. I think that directing has given me some very interesting insight into, okay, this is what the director wants when I'm in front of the camera. And I'm really able to absorb and learn so much, being able to switch between both lenses, so to speak.
So when you've been on set for some of the major studios, say Elegant Angel or whomever it might be, have you found yourself sitting there and observing the director and thinking about what they're thinking and sort of learning almost as an apprentice would, maybe in moments when you're not on the camera or something like that?
It's funny because for me, that's just a way of being. As a performer, I feel like it's very important for me to learn like what the director's doing so that I can better myself for the camera in front of them. And so it was just kind of second nature to always ask questions and be like, okay, where should I be focusing for the light? How does the light work? Why are you placing the light right here? How should I angle my body? And when I learn about that as a performer, I think as a director, okay, this is how I should angle the light for the person that I want to film because this is how I want it to come out. A lot of the times as an actor when I'm talking to the director, they'll say, "Okay, this is what I want." And then I'm also learning how to communicate by doing. I'm learning to communicate my ideas and share with the people that I'm directing how they should move. And there's so much um, that's shared. Everything just sort of overlaps. And being on an Elegant Angel set, everything just flows so well. You learn like how long you should take for pictures, what the direction's going to be for the scene, and I really love the flow that comes out of that. The scenes always end up so rewarding, and I think that's one of the things that I really love about being on an Elegant Angel set. The outcome always turns out fantastic.
So for fans, give us a little bit of insight there. Say, on a typical Elegant Angel shoot, what does the day look like? You mentioned shooting, some pictures, some stills and things like that. Just take us through briefly a typical day on an Elegant Angel set.
Of course. So, um, I usually wake up very early in the morning. It's a little bit different from everyone. Everyone has their own routine, but I wake up 3 hours before call time to wash my hair. My hair is very long, so it takes a while for it to dry, but then my hair is nice and dry for the makeup artist who's going to be on set. It takes about an hour to get everything done, makeup wise and hairstyling wise. There's usually not much they have to do hair wise. But they might clean it up and get rid of some of the frizz so that when my pictures are taken in stills, everything looks very nice and clean. So there's usually safe for work stills and not safe for work stills. I think you might be able to ascertain what those might be, cloaked and uncloaked. Um, when we are discussing the story, sometimes I'll already be wearing the clothes that I'm going to wear for the scene. So as we're taking the pictures, I'm already looking through the scripts, or I'm just sort of looking over what we're planning to do. Like my Elegant Angel scene with Ramon Nomar, I remember very distinctly that I already had the script sort of rehearsed the morning of and going into it. As they were taking pictures, I was already thinking of the lines that I was going to say. By the time that Ramon and I got together and sort of sat in front of the couch and we were rehearsing our lines, figuring out our characters, it was very easy for us to connect. We immediately like maintained a kind of physical contact that was very consistent. That's my particular way of getting into character. I like to touch and I like to maintain eye contact, and I look into their eyes and I just get a feel for where we are in the moment. And I want every performer to know that I'm paying full attention to them and that there are no distractions. And then when the director gets on set, it's just, we snap through it. We usually get through our dialogue pretty easy. And then we might go into sex stills first. So those are stills of the sex positions. And then we will conclude the scene with a bang, so to speak, or a pop shot, which is the figuring out where the cum goes.
Right. So in the sex stills, as I understand it, this is one of those behind the scenes things. You can tell me if this is true. For the sex stills that might represent a cum shot, they have to simulate it with what, hand cream or something like that. Is that true? Is that what happens?
It's really different for every set. So different companies have different methods. Some companies use spunk. Other people, or you know what, it's really just director's preference, I think, because sometimes they'll have uh, coconut sauce, so it's very sweet on the tongue. Others have Cetaphil. So it really is just a variety. Sometimes you can just, this will sound very silly, but you just kind of drip from your mouth a little bit, and it looks very, very real, very authentic. So everyone has a different method of replicating
When you say spunk, is that like a capital S spunk? Is that like a name brand of fake cum? Is that
Oh,
what that
yes,
is?
it is. Yeah, it is. There are different types of what's referred to as cum lube. Lube that is synthesized to look and feel like cum. But it does not taste like cum. It tastes like chemicals usually. But it looks very real, and I really don't mind the taste.
Interesting. So it's visually authentic, but once it gets
Yeah.
to the tongue, the authenticity dries up, so to speak.
Yes, that is absolutely what I mean. But it's completely safe to swallow, so I have also done that.
Completely safe to swallow. That sounds like a that's what she said joke, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Right? Right. We got a comedy routine here going. Speaking of comedy, you did a guest shot on a YouTube program that or show that Nathan Bronson has where he cooks with a porn
Cooking
star. And
with
it's a
Nathan.
super yeah, it's a super fun show, and I recommend everybody go check that out because it's just a fun, relaxed conversation, and you can learn a lot about both of you in in that chat. But there were a couple of things. I mean, for instance, it had a great quotation he said at one point, or maybe you said it, I don't remember. Jerking off is the same as peeling potatoes. I mean, that's classic, right? And I suppose it is in some sense the motion, obviously. But there was one point where he was asking you about instances where you feel attraction so strong that it can become almost a distraction. So I wondered if that's ever happened on a set where you just had such a compelling chemistry with someone that it almost distracted you from what you had to do, which was a porn performance and, open up and do all the things that you need to do to have a great uh, porn performance.
Well, absolutely. I mean, no matter what performance it is, you can easily get swept up into whatever you're doing. And the same absolutely happens with porn. Um, in the process of filming porn, it's either all at once, every position all at once, or there are breaks in between for the cameras to be adjusted to best capture those things. And sometimes the director will give direction or instruction on how to angle one's body and how to adjust for them. And um, I'm usually very fast to adjust, but sometimes uh, there have been rare moments where it's kind of easy to just kind of get swept up in the moment of, okay, we are in the process of having sex and um, we are about to transition into the next thing, but in between, we might still be continuing said position as the director is giving instruction. Sometimes that's to kind of assist in keeping that sexual attraction, like that sexual stimulation going. But it's also just, I've definitely been swept up in it before where it's like, okay, we are still having sex. They're just adjusting the cameras, and I don't need to focus on any of that right now. I just need to focus on the person that's in front of me.
Right, because that has to be tricky because usually, when you're having really, really passionate sex, almost by definition, you are swept up in the moment, you are almost having an out-of-body experience, but
Yes.
yet as a performer, you also have to, I would imagine, remember that you're being photographed. That's got to be tricky to combine those two things at times, I would think.
Yeah, but when you find the right balance of those things, I absolutely love it because you get the most genuine facial expressions for camera. I mean, when my pursuing of sex is to be so genuine and authentic, I feel like it's a very fine border because I want to be as attentive as possible for the director, but also we're making a good scene if it's very good sex. So it's all of those things. You also have to be directed for the camera to make sure that everyone can see just how good that sex is.
Right, right. Now, Cooking with Nathan, I think in that YouTube show, by implication, it's also sort of talking about the connection between sex and food. Is that something you think about sometimes? Are there certain foods that might put you in the mood, or you'd even call aphrodisiacs? Do you
Mhm.
think about the connection between sex and food at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think about the connection between sex and everything quite consistently. Um, I know that probably does sound strange, but so I have a sensory processing disorder, and it's actually kind of a superpower because all of my senses are heightened. That includes my sense of touch and my sense of taste. So when I taste food, there are certain foods that are particularly almost orgasmic for me. It is very intensely pleasurable, and the taste overwhelms my body, and it feels just so good as I'm almost dissecting the flavor profile of whatever I'm eating.
Wow. So, can you give us an example of one of those foods that might have that effect?
The first thing that comes to my mind is soup dumplings. Um, so soup dumplings are a type of dumpling where there is actually soup when you bite into it. And the traditional method for eating them is that you bite a little bit off the top of the dumpling, add a tiny bit of soy sauce on the inside, and then pop the rest of it in your mouth and drink it. But if you have a little bit of soy sauce and you dip the dumpling into it and then you just put it in your mouth and you gently sink your teeth into it, there's this burst of flavor where the heat of the soup fills your mouth, and there's a little bit of meat that's in the center, that just sort of finds itself washed all the way down your throat. And I know that I'm describing it very sexually because that's exactly what it feels like for me.
Right. It sounds like you have the eating of this particular thing down to an absolute science and art.
Mm.
You've got it down there.
Yeah, soup dumplings are absolutely amazing, and they are one of my favorite things next to sushi and candy.
You mentioned it in passing a little bit earlier in the interview, and you and I were talking about it a little bit before the interview proper. But you, of course, have traveled to Japan, and I just wondered if you could tell people what it is about Japanese culture that most fascinates you.
Mm. The thing that most fascinates me about Japanese culture is its history. And when I came here, I thought it was so funny because it kind of feels like everything's made for me, size wise. I'm very short. I'm 5 feet exactly, and I was so worried when I was coming here, thinking, oh, everything's going to be really small because I know I'm American, but um, I really do enjoy that everything's kind of made for small people. And when I arrived at Narita Airport, and so I was able to explore Narita, and I've seen so many shrines. Um, there's just this beautiful moment of contemplation if you wake up very early in the morning before anyone else. I woke up at 6 in the morning my first day, and I walked down the streets. I took pictures of small statues on the sides of the roads, and I was able to hear Buddhist priests chanting in the center of the shrine. It was so beautiful, and that aspect of culture, their deep history that's mixed in with their tradition and their religion. It's very fascinating to me, and the food is absolutely fantastic as well. Sushi has something that I've always wanted to try. It's like from Japan. I love sushi, so being here and being able to taste the food and just experience everything about Japan is absolutely wonderful.
So I assume that the sushi in Japan is a lot better than the stuff you might find in the United States, right?
It's very different, you know. What I can say is that fish that's sourced from different locations just taste very different. So, very good sushi in LA is very different from very good sushi in Japan. Just not even in quality because LA has fantastic sushi. It is just specifically that it tastes different. So different fish taste better. Tuna tastes better, I think, in Japan than it does in LA. But salmon in LA tastes so amazing. And salmon just is not as popular a fish in Japan. So it's very interesting.
Are you a fan of Japanese pornography? I remember from a past conversation you're definitely a fan of hentai, as I recall, right?
Yes, I am a very big fan of hentai. I haven't seen as much like Japan live pornography, but hentai's always been a particular favorite of mine. Basically because there's so many taboos that hentai pursues that I just find very fun. Tentacles being one of them. And I know that there's a company called Hentai. I have not worked with them yet, but I think that if I were to do that, that would be something that I would like to do. I did get to do Parasited this year, which was really fun and hentai aesthetic uh, related. It was very entertaining.
Right. So I know the brand you mean, and from what I recall, it's kind of what it sounds like. It's parasite scenarios, but with a sexual flavor, and they're kind of intense. So, gosh, give us a little bit of insight into the scene that you shot. What it was about and what it was like to shoot.
Mm. So the scene that I was in was very fantastic. I was not expecting the attention to detail that was put into the Parasited series, and it was so fantastic and so thrilling. I really felt like I was in a horror movie. Um, so it starts out with me being on the phone, and I'm about to start the bath, and you see like a close up of the parasite worm as it's popping out of the faucet. And I'm going into the bathtub and I'm looking over into the water because it's been stopping and starting. And then one of the parasites jumps out and hops right into my mouth. And then I'm taken. And then I later pursue very hot lesbian sex. It was a very amazing scene because there is a prosthetics guy that's there working with the props. And he had like different types of worms. There was one that was like a machine that could crawl along the floor. So um, that's not CGI or anything. It was just he made a physical robot worm that could inch across the floor. And there were just different special effects that we were able to use, like worms with different parts that we could move with our tongues and bring them back and forth into each other. It was very fun, and I also I very much found it interesting how covered in slime we were for the scene. It was so wild and so much fun.
Gosh, so revisiting an earlier theme, we were talking about what they use for fake semen in scenes. What did they use for the slime in this case? I'm curious.
They used a special kind of jelly actually. It was very different. Like it didn't have a bad taste or anything. It just tasted almost like nothing. Um, and its ability to stick to the skin and its ability to slide off, it made for a very easy lubricant, I could say. Um, and I would say that's something that you need for a good hentai aesthetic scene.
For sure. Now, what did you think about the scene when you saw the finished product, if indeed you watched the finished product?
Oh, I loved it so much. But I very rarely watch my own scenes, but I wanted to watch this one because I was just so happy with how it turned out. I just, um, I'm always so self-critical, so I can rarely just look at it and completely enjoy it. But I remember watching the trailer for it and just feeling so excited. Like, oh my gosh, we did it and it looks fantastic. And I was so self-conscious about how it was going to look, but the trailer just completely blew me away, and I was so happy with it. I really wanted to do my best at making it look realistic, like, oh my gosh, the worm's attacking me. I'm gonna fall to the floor. I'm gonna like spasm a little bit. The way that they spliced everything together, I really have to give it to the editors. They did a fantastic job because it just looks so good.
So, do you feel a kinship with Japanese culture for that reason, in the sense that you are Leanna Lovings, you have a very pleasant manner? You know, some might look at you and say, "Oh, she's very, you know, like a librarian or something like that." Again, I'm generalizing, but of
Of
course, you
course.
have you know, a sexual beast inside you. So, do you think that's part of the appeal of Japan to you? Have you ever thought of it that way?
I had never thought of it that way, but I do find it funny, you know. We do have two halves of the self, two faces to show, and it is kind of funny. Japan definitely has a wild side, and it's funny that you mention the sexual underbelly of Japan because I actually met with the writer for Tokyo Vice on Netflix while I've been in Japan, and he took me to experience the nightlife of Roppongi. And I had the honor of visiting one of the best hostess clubs in Roppongi called Terrace. And while we were there, I got to sort of experience what the sexual approach towards nightlife is in Japan. I did not participate, but I witnessed it as I was there um, with the writer for Tokyo Vice. It was very fascinating. Um, and being there, having the opportunity to kind of have VIP access and look at the dancers, at the women that were there, at the girls that were holding champagne and dancing. It was so fascinating because it seems so completely unlike anything that you expect on the face of Japan in the daylight. And they told me that their busiest hours are around midnight and 1 in the morning, and that everyone there parties until 5 in the morning, which is absolutely amazing when the workday starts pretty early in Japan.
Right. That's 5 a.m. That's not fooling around there.
Yeah,
That's partying quite literally until dawn, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Not so long ago, you shot a movie called "My First Hot Wife Experience," Volume 7, I think it was, and you did a scene with Charles Dara, and you had a nice little slice of dialogue here that I wanted to sort of discuss briefly. Um, you said, and again, the hot wife scenario is basically, just to contextualize this, of course, um, couples, and the husband is interested in his wife having sex with someone else, and it's fully with his approval, and he's, you know, quite possibly also enjoying the whole experience too. It's not a cuckold thing. It's a whole mutually consensual, etc. And you, at one point in that scene, you say, "It makes me so wet thinking about all the freedoms that you're giving me." So therein, there's this idea of something that's erotic and a turn on that's not overtly sexual. It's you're getting freedom. So I wondered, what are some things that really turn you on that on the surface are not overtly sexual? They're not, you know, a body part or a sexual theme as such. Things like that.
Hmm. You know what? I don't think that guys realize um, how sexually appealing it is to hold the door open for a girl. Like that's so silly, but someone with good manners is very sexually attractive. Um, and another thing that I think that would be interesting to note is that when someone says, uh, like, hey, I know that you might not be ready for having sex right in this moment, but I'm willing to wait for you. It almost makes a girl immediately willing to have sex. Just being able to say that you're patient and that you're open to giving that time for them to think about it immediately becomes the enticement. It becomes a seduction in its own sense. And I know that might seem counterintuitive, you know, saying, hey, it's okay to wait as almost the go ahead signal for um, arousing a girl, but that really is what the logic is there because of the freedom of being able to choose and the sense of control that you have in thinking, okay, I get to control when this is going to happen. Um, it's very, I think that the aspects of sexuality for every single person, uh, they're very different, but there are just certain things that are almost unexplainably sensual in the grace that they're carried through.
It's a beautiful way of putting it, for sure.
Thank you.
So, as of this recording, we're only a few days short of Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. So, I have to ask, do you have any particular Thanksgiving traditions that you usually observe?
Well, since I'm in Japan, I cannot conduct my usual Thanksgiving of a nice big turkey and pork with pineapple. And since I'm Puerto Rican, usually what's on the plate is pasteles. And let's see, stuffing and yams with toasted marshmallow. Oh, that's my favorite. And green bean casserole.
Oh, of course, absolutely, right? And it's the toasted marshmallows that really do it, right?
Yes. Oh, and my last favorite. Oh, okay. I always get divided. It's either just straight up cranberry sauce. I could probably eat an entire can of cranberry sauce, or cranberries, uh, kind of a cranberry compote mixed with orange peel shavings. It adds a very interesting citrusy taste that pairs very well with the cranberry.
And when you were talking about cranberry sauce, the first incarnation there, do you mean like literally the can where you open it and retains the shape when you that sort of thing, the classic?
Yeah, yeah. No, I could absolutely eat an entire can. Unfortunately,
Right, but probably not this year, as you said, since you're
not this year.
abroad.
This year I will be having I'm probably going to celebrate Thanksgiving the way that I used to celebrate New Year's with my family, which is we would buy a whole bunch of seafood, particularly crab
Hmm.
and shrimp, and we would just have a go at it. I remember, actually, no, I don't remember exactly how many crab legs I used to eat on New Year's, but that is probably what I am going to attempt this Thanksgiving.
There you go. Sounds like a good plan. Well, I know we're running short on time here, and you've been very generous with your time. But as we wind down here, I just wanted to go through a little bit of a, it's not quite a lightning round, but kind of in that spirit, where we just grab a couple of fun little questions off the pile here and see what you think. Um, so let's see here. What's a TV show recently that you've binge watched?
Followed the House of Usher.
Ooh, classic. Right. Are you a Poe fan in general?
Oh, of course I am. Big Poe fan.
Do you have a favorite Poe story? Is it the Fall of the House of Usher?
No, it is not the Fall of the House of Usher. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember my favorite Poe. It it's a story. You know what? The Mask of the Red Death is a good choice for now. I'm just gonna say The Mask of the Red Death is my favorite, even though it's actually a poem that Edgar Allan Poe had written about a sepulcher by the sea. That's the actual one that I really like from Poe.
Right, right. His poetry is quite remarkable. You're right. Okay, next up. What's your most frequently used emoji?
Heart emoji.
There
I
you
think
go.
that one might be easy. Leanna Lovings is always loving, so I'll always put the heart emojis first on my list of things.
Very good. Very, very on brand, I would say. Yes, definitely. Um, okay, here's a completely random one. How many pillows do you sleep with at night?
Oh, that's a really good one. I have like 8 pillows, maybe more, sometimes 10 pillows in bed with me on any given night.
10 pillows. I can't even picture that.
So, well, you know what? I'm counting one pillow as like a super pillow that overlaps at least like 3 pillows. So I have a very long body pillow. I have a backrest pillow that I put in the corner of my bed away, like when during nighttime, and then I have two, the standard two on one side and a standard two on the other side, and then another kind of like a buco, which is like a like the small round pillows that I can hold and kind of squeeze around my legs in the middle of the night.
There you go. There you go. People can summon that image there, construct the various
Yes.
placements in their minds, like an architectural drawing or something, right?
Yes, because it's going to be very difficult.
Right. So, what's your biggest guilty pleasure?
Pillows. No,
Fair enough.
candy, I'd say. I eat a lot of candy on a given day, and that is my vice.
Nice. Do you have a particular favorite type of candy or anything like that?
While I'm in Japan, konpeito is my favorite candy. It's like little pure sugar in rock form, dyed different colors. Um, but really, I also love candy corn, and I love Werther's Originals. I know that makes me sound like an old lady, but Werther's Originals.
Oh, there you go. Do you keep like some of those in your purse to hand out to kids for helping them cross the street?
Oh no, see, no one gets the Werther's Originals but me. They're all
There
mine.
you go. And candy corn, that's one of those ones that's very divisive. Like some people really, the people who don't like it, they really don't like it, and they tend to be quite vocal about it, which is
Oh
strange,
yes.
isn't it?
Everyone's like that when it comes to pineapple on pizza, though. Candy corn is the pineapple on the pizza, so to speak. Everyone has
Right.
to be vocal about it, and I absolutely love candy corn. But I feel like so my fans have very lovingly given me the nickname Candy Goddess on several occasions, and I feel like it would not be appropriate of me to have a name like that and to not love almost every single candy that I try, except for lemon heads. Lemon heads can take a hike.
Right, right. Well, but that's on brand too because Lemonhead's sour. You're not a sour person, so come on. There you go. It all fits. It all fits.
There we go.
Well, as we wind down here, I did want to give you a chance, of course, just to tell people where they can follow you on social media to see what you're up to and what your upcoming plans are.
Alrighty, you can find me on Twitter as Leana Lovings. That's capital L's, Leana Lovings. Instagram is the Leana Lovings, all lowercase, spelled exactly the same way. And my OnlyFans is just it's Leana Lovings, all lowercase.
There you go. And of course, like I always say, you can visit adultempire.com. You can type in Leanna Loving's name, and you can find all kinds of good stuff, including soon some of that stuff that you've been describing there, some of those
Yes,
scenes and movies that people will be able to check out and see what we've been talking about here today. Well, Leanna Loving's our 2023 Adult Empire Porn Star of the Year. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to chat with you.
thank you so much. It has been absolutely fantastic.